Hello everyone, welcome once again to Riding Tiger with Arijit, and today this is 56th episode where we'll be talking to another amazing personality, and that is Christopher. Christopher is coming from definitely the background which is gaming. And the interesting fact is when I started my entrepreneurial life back in 1998 when I was 17, without money, without computers, I started gaming business as a business. So I started India's one of the oldest game development studio. The reason I call it one of the oldest because I don't know, probably lots many other people have started a game studio, but I'm not sure how many of them actually started product development, mainly on game product development. So my journey was completely different. When I started, the very term entrepreneur was not there in India. It was all about business. And when I left engineering as a study and I joined economics, and after that, I did my master's in computer science while doing my business, it was more of like discouragement rather than encouragement. So I decided long back that if I can do something in my life, maybe as a successful entrepreneur, I'll be giving back to the community, giving back to the society, and probably create platforms after platform wherein people will get real values. So what we did together, I shouldn't say now as I, because that very term I became we now. What we did together, we floated our own accelerator, our own fund, our own angel syndicate. We created a platform for startups called Entrepreneur Face. We created the accelerator called Co-Innovate Ventures with one of my partner based out of Australia. And then we started a global movement, which is called World Leaders Summit. So World Leaders Summit actually started with the bang. When I used to travel the world, I brought in lots many of my connections, friends, change makers across the world. For an example, Bruce, who is a disruptor from Australia, with his name, of course, there is a Bonded Rescue as a TV series. Definitely Swati Mandela, the granddaughter of Nelson Mandela. I can go on with those kind of movers and shakers who are part of World Leaders Summit. That started with 90 countries, around 125 speakers in the first year. Second year, that happened with 95 countries, 146 change makers and speakers. And this year, in December 2nd onwards, we'll be doing World Leader Summit with 100 countries, definitely with more and more change makers and speakers. Interesting fact, we'll be doing it in Ghana in October, which is going to happen as a physical meetup. And hopefully we'll be doing in September. And the possible dates are the end of September for all the people who are looking for business expansion, matchmaking, partnership, and fundraising. We already did this year, March Investor Roundtable, where we brought in 10 different countries altogether coming and then network, and then they pitched to our investor pool, started collaborating and expanding their business. So that's in a whole what we have been doing so far so good. And when we talk about we, all these we, they actually ride on a risk. And that risk factor is their tiger. Why I call it as a tiger? When you start your business, you are taking a risk. It's a never-ending journey. You just can't stop. If you stop, either you need to kill your business or the business will try to kill you. So you need to pump in, rope in something which is raw meat, and that raw meat is money in real world. And when we talk about pumping those kind of structures, better than me, probably, I've got my beautiful, charming, handsome guy from US who will be sharing a lot about what he is doing. So ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce Christopher. Christopher, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Arjit. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Christopher, I heard that you are creating some disruptive platform, and definitely you are creating a great number of pool of segment where a lot many people will get benefit out of it. Could you please explain what you're doing and how the world can get those kind of advantages?
Absolutely, I would be more than happy to do so. So actually, let's go back a bit in terms of the tape. So when I was 16, I lost my mother to leukemia, and then I turned to video games as an escape from reality. Of course, this resulted in me becoming very good at gaming. of course, you're gonna get better and better when you play 12, you play 14 hours a day, but it was always at the expense of my own health and well-being that I was getting there. So during this time that I was climbing the ranks, getting better and better, first I was playing a game called Counter-Strike, and then I played a MOBA called Heroes of New Earth, and after that a rhythm game called Osu, where in Osu I also held the most number one scores between 2015 to 2019. But alongside this, the health aspect was always the second priority, whereas gaming was always the main priority. So, of course, this have in recent years gotten a definition, which is gaming disorder. And looking back at it, I am currently running a startup called Health Gaming, which is on a mission to eliminate gaming disorder as an internationally classified disease, simply by helping people balance their everyday health and video gaming habits. So we work with something called acceptance and commitment therapy, which we combine with applied psychology, gamification, and other gaming related elements to serve the well-being of gamers. And of course, it's one of those things where different people, different individuals are going to have different experience in relationship to gaming. But ultimately, gaming has so many advantages. You have anything from the development of problem-solving skills, development of social connections and engagement, the imaginative creativity, which I'm sure you're familiarized with as well, Arjit, based on your background in gaming. And you also have the fact that specific games supports the development of specific skills. So looking at all of these advantages, I believe it's crucial that we provide the information, the tools needed for people to practice cordial usage of video games so they can actually fully utilize its advantages.
True, true, totally agree. In fact, I'll tell you an interesting fact. We are not just a simple gaming studio. What we do, we take real actor and actress, which we started taking probably in 2006-7 onwards. We started converting them into a superhero character into 3D. Um, so I'm not sure whether you're familiar with at least eastern part of India. I'm from a city called Calcutta. In Calcutta,
Absolutely.
in Calcutta, there was no studio which can support us for taking those motion capture. So what we did initially, we did 360-degree picturization with simple DSLR camera. And it was really, really challenging for me to make them understand that why we are taking such kind of pictures in T pose or A pose. It was really, really challenging for us to create a 3D character. The fact is, the way we did that, we started taking these characters as a story-based structure from our epics, a little bit of change so that people can get the same similar kind of values while they are playing the games. And what we did when we were converting those folklores from actually value creations for humanity, we started teaching kids if they're helping the nature, if they're helping animals, if they're adopting probably a pet, or if they're nourishing a tree, they will become beautiful day in and day out, utilizing and playing that game. And that changed a lot of kids. We started getting emails, calls from parents. They started saying that, you know what, as a parent, I want my kids to play this. How did you guys thought that this is going to helpful? That gave us a thought that probably when you're playing game, not only improvising your IQ, you can actually have an impact. And when you're talking about gaming disorder, it's a serious issue. I talk a lot regarding the same in TVs, in newspaper, Christopher, mainly in Asian magazines, sometimes in Europe as well. This is an alarming issue. And when you are taking that as a consideration factor, and when you're working on this, there is a lot of psychological factors you need to go through. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And when you take a look at gaming disorder in particular, like it's diagnosed as a behavior pattern which must be sufficient severity over a longer period of time and have a significantly negative effect on both the personal, the family, the social, the educational, the professional aspects of your life as well. And looking at the definition of this, the fact that it's required to be diagnosed over a consecutive period of 12 months means that when you actually get to the point of diagnosing gaming disorder, it's something that's brand new to the user themselves, but they've actually been experiencing this for a longer period of time. And then we take another step back and we look at the numbers of people that are actually facing this issue. By the end of 2021, a total of 97.6 million gamers faced internet gaming disorder, which of course, unfortunately, is a number that by this tempo is expected to surpass 100 million already this year. And then you take a look at it as well, like one might have cognitive biases on like who is the actual gamer with gaming disorder. Does it only happen to a specific type of gamer? But then you take another step back and looking at it, and the estimated ratio between men and women facing gaming disorder is approximately 2.5 to 1, which means that approximately 27 million of those 97 million gamers are women, in fact. And then you look at it as well, and you take gaming disorder in particular, it's usually not the main issue for anyone who faces it, but it's more so triggered by another core issue, whether it's a result of stress, anxiety, depression, whether it's kind of like I touched base on before, related to the fact that for all you know, you might be struggling at school, at work, with a relationship, and then gaming becomes a nicer and nicer escape from reality. And suddenly you grow more and more fond of it. Of course, when you get in the game, you're going to have all of the great advantages of both gaming itself as well as gamification, and you're going to have a great time. But ultimately, what it does result in is the development of a lack of self-control over gaming. And then you also see the escalational part of it, where you have clear escalations or continuous escalations happen despite the occurrence of negative events and impairment in relationship to it. So just as you say, it's a severe issue that's really important to be addressed, and not only in one way, but in multiple ways. Because you don't only have these issues for this diverse target audience of people. People suffer from it all over the world, and people also suffer from it playing different types of games. Whereas in these different types of games, you have different triggers for the problem as well. As an example, going back to women, because they face certain other issues that men gaming don't face. You both have the single player games where you're more likely to develop gaming disorder right away, but you also have the multiplayer games where you are more of a target for in-game sexism, gender-based discrimination, and of course, those are things that indirectly triggers things such as stress, anxiety, depression that I mentioned before that does result in gaming disorder. So I believe it's one of those things where it's absolutely crucial to understand that, as well as from a parent's perspective, a friend's perspective, to simply observe not just the development of the symptoms, but actually have a bit of awareness of the game the person's playing, since different games do come with different risks. But I do believe that you're onto something amazing in terms of what you're discussing with the 3D characters, because looking at it recently, of course, we have more and more development in terms of virtual reality, augmented reality, and we're starting to see more and more people enter the metaverse. And I like the fact that you're touching on something like that at such an early stage, because from a gaming disorder perspective, there's a lot of potential to treating it in such an environment as well, which is also something myself and my company aims to do in the long run.
I'm sure about it. But when you talk about, Christopher, when you are talking about disorder of personalities, many times I have seen that kids who are playing games probably aged between, I just give you a rough figure, estimated one, aged between
Absolutely.
15 to 26 approximately, 15 to 26 in this age group. What happens when you're fond of gaming? In a way, it is good when you're playing it just for relaxation. Lot many cases I have seen that people who are frustrated in their world, like for an example, they are frustrated from love life, sometimes family life, sometimes study. They find it cool to be there in the gaming world, enter there, make some new friends, maybe utilizing chat, maybe they are killing the enemies with the intention that they are probably killing someone who actually hate in real life. And when this increases, this is really alarming. When this disorder increases, unknowingly, they try to do it in real life. And lot many of such cases actually happened in the world, that when some parents, they ask that, okay, fine, you have been playing games for the entire day, now stop it. In India, in some other places, I can take examples. Kids, they just reacted in a completely different way. Even some of the sad incidents that happened, Christopher. One of the kids, aged about 17, he shot directly to his mother and she was spot dead. So how do you feel when you're talking about disrupting this gaming disorder as a challenge? How do you feel you want to address it? How exactly do you feel that you can solve this issue? It's going to take time. We all understand this. But
Oh yeah,
what is
definitely.
your procedure? Yeah,
I believe one of the most important things in this cases is to, first of all, understand what you aim to get out of gaming, aim to spot the issue in an early point, and also utilize psychological methods. Like, take in our case, for an example, we work with acceptance and commitment therapy. And the reason why we chose this method in particular is because it is evidence-based, supported by organizations such as WHO, the American Psychological Association, and many other national psychological agencies and bodies. But looking at ACT as a framework, the key thing about it is the fact that you don't have to admit the fact that you have a problem in order to get a solution to it, which is of course the other part of it, because right now you do have other companies working with cognitive behavioral therapy, which is great for the target audience, which is willing to admit that they have a problem. Because in order to get help successfully with CBT in this case, you need to admit that you have a problem in order to get help, whereas acceptance and commitment therapy works with addressing the framework rather than the issue directly, which is why I find that psychological method interesting to use as a core methodology. Of course, it's one of those things which is a lot easier said than done, and you need to have intervening strategies as well. And we are starting to see gaming companies as well as companies around gaming taking actions to work their way around it. But of course, it's a far way to go. Like, you only recently had issues in Sweden where, I'm not sure if using the word terrorist attack is the right way to put it, but basically kids using a gaming app for their communication prior to committing a criminal activity at those schools, basically stabbing people. And of course, I'm not going to name the app because we don't want to put a specific app in the
of
spotlight
course,
here.
of
But
course.
more so, I believe it's really important to be able to snap up those cases before they develop over a longer period of time, which is where the acceptance and commitment therapy comes into play, since you both need to work with the psychological framework, but also make sure that you address simple things such as goals, such as values, in order to make sure that the kids, especially the young people who are facing a higher risk of suffering from gaming disorder, to ensure that they do have goals both outside of gaming as well as related to their gaming. Because looking at it, in the end of the day, gaming have a lot of great advantages if you're able to utilize it. But if you don't have any goals related to doing something, if there's no value in it, then in all honesty, as much as you want to help people balance their everyday health and video gaming habits, some cases it might be better to look at the option of quitting. And I believe a crucial thing in order to actually resolve this is to identify and pinpoint that balance in particular and utilize the advantages of technology in this case to spot those cases and implement the augmented regime of treatment before the issue occurs. Because if you reach that point, then you're going to end up at a point where you both have a problem solution where you directly help people face an issue, as well as problem prevention, where you have an environment where you make sure that people who faces risk of experiencing gaming disorder, or if it's in-game sexism, discrimination, actually can get help avoiding those issues. And it's going to take a lot of effort, a lot of strategic partnerships, a lot of collaboration, because one person or one organization cannot do it themselves. But I believe it's crucial that multiple people come together with their own set of skills in order for us to succeed in our mission of ultimately eliminating gaming disorder. Because looking at it from a PR perspective, when WHO communicated in May 2019 that the World Health Assembly had officially approved gaming disorder as an internationally classified disease, that caused a huge PR backlash, because of course then in the eyes of gamers, suddenly gaming is a mental disease, which of course leads to, to a large bridge to gap, like a large bridge which has been entirely burned between those two target audiences of WHO defining it and the gamers. And also a key thing to resolving it is rebuilding that bridge, putting socially responsible gaming on the agenda, and also committing to supporting the gaming companies who might struggle to take social responsibility due to the fact that from a gaming company's perspective, like you need to focus on business growth, you need to focus on revenue, and those type of companies also need to get a hand stretched out how they can take their share of social responsibility without basically shooting their own business in the foot.
Yeah, I understand. But when you talk about uh, practically the young generation and the incidents that usually happens, I would love to ask you one very simple question. When
Go
people
for it.
play skill-based games, uh, in my opinion, those are mainly on betting. We are calling it in a sophisticated term that it is a skill-based game like poker, like casinos, those kind of games. How do you react to that? How do you feel that there also gaming disorders are happening? People are losing money real time. So how do you address that? What is your opinion?
I believe it's really important to separate gaming disorder and video gaming addiction from gambling addiction, gambling disorder, because even though they have similar triggers in terms of psychological framework, the fact that you usually fall into excessive gaming, excessive gambling because of another thing, they're still two completely different things with two
No, no, hold on, hold
completely
on, hold on,
different
hold on. When
target.
I talk about such kind of game, for an example, I'll give you a live example. Say you are playing
Go
a
for it.
you're playing a probably a fantasy cricket game. Okay, I'm not taking any
Yeah,
name of any games.
that's a better example than poker.
Yeah. So when you're playing a fantasy cricket game or fantasy soccer ball game, what is your opinion on this? There are a lot many gaming disorder which is inside. There are a lot many gambling disorder which is inside. How do you react to this?
In a way, I believe one of the most crucial things is to educate, make sure people are aware of it, and also implement certain principles that are tailor-made for specific games
Mhm.
to prevent such issues from occurring. Of course, it's one of those things easier said than done. But that's also why I address the fact that the companies that struggle with it need to get help solving it without it negatively interfering with their business. And I really do believe a key thing to resolve it is to make sure that the companies in gaming can remain profitable whilst looking out for their target audience. Because when gaming companies start looking out for their target audience, of course, in a way, you have the game design, you have game principles and everything designed by those specific companies. And if we put them in a position where they can help their target audience of gamers get the most out of the game whilst not losing out on, on revenue, losing out on players, losing out on so-called whales, which is the definition for the small number of people that spend excessive amount of money in those games. As long as losing out on that group does not backfire on the business itself, launching the game, we've come a far way towards resolving it. Because then you're also not only going to have people outside of the gaming companies working for social responsible gaming, but you're also going to have the gaming companies themselves working on it. And we're already seeing some companies leading with good examples where they do have the ESG departments, where they do have their CSR initiatives. And of course, it's really important that some of those gaming companies do step up and lead by example as well. And I think that's crucial in order to see a solution to it.
True, true. And one interesting question to you, which is
Go for it.
probably not gonna be directly relevant to gaming as a whole. But if we look at the industry and the diversity, um, I mean, I personally was involved with lot many crypto games to be done, definitely for a few of our clients. Uh, but when I look at those crypto gaming as a market, and if I look at new coins which are coming up in the market, they use game development as a tool to create new platforms, utilize their new coins to be there. And of course, they push people to play with their new coins so that the valuation goes up. With those kind of platform, definitely, I don't feel that there are a lot many disorder, which I will say as disorder. But yeah, anything which is more than sufficient, which is more than normal, is not good. I would love to understand how do you address the new market which is being developed. Example, NFTs are the new buzzword at the moment. Lot many good platforms, cool platforms are coming. Lot many cool crypto-based games are coming up, and people are making money. There is a sustainability factor for people as well who couldn't even earn money for their livelihood. They have probably earned money utilizing crypto. And that's a fact. I know a lot many of those groups who are not bankable. But now, because of crypto, they got a little bit of money and they started playing crypto-based games because they love to earn their livelihood. So how do you address this? And do you have any kind of future goal in your startup that you're going to probably address these issues of real life, connect that back with the gaming disorder, and then probably penetrate this?
I think it's an interesting question because looking at it for a fact, you both have the group that already is suffering from it and all the group that risks of facing it, and also looking at those games in particular. Of course, they fall back on gaming this like gamification in the end of the day, which is about implementing game principles in contexts outside of gaming as well. And in the end of the day, that is a psychological framework that does have a psychological wiring behind it in order to drive user engagement, improve knowledge retention. And then, of course, you can utilize similar psychological tools to, to deal with it in a positive manner. And I believe in the end of the day, looking at the number of people facing gaming disorder, it's 3.05% worldwide. Let's not forget about the fact that 96.95% of all gamers does not face gaming disorder.
Yep.
And the majority are able to practice core usage of gaming and get the most out of gaming, as well as have a great time doing it. And I do believe it's really important to maintain the focus on the fact that gaming can be used for good. And in a lot of these cases, we're seeing gamification being a cause for the uprising of such things. Because of course, like what you mentioned with the crypto games and those development, it's helping people. It's helping people. It's creating new opportunities, new careers, and then ultimately, it's about maintaining awareness, knowledge, and understanding of the potential issues and liabilities that one might face if done at an excessive level. Because, of course, it's one of those things when, let's say, you have nothing, you go into those games, you're realizing that, yeah, this is actually turning into something really good for me. You're going to start doing it more and more. And as long as you're aware of the fact that you still maintain control over your video gaming habits, you got what you need in order to get the most out of it.
Absolutely, absolutely right. Absolutely right. So thank you, Christopher, for actually all those inputs. It's actually, I'm sure that all the viewers, all the audience who will be watching this will get a lot many answers, and definitely will understand how to treat game development world as a game development world. For a small request to all the audience, don't forget to click on
Okay.
the subscribe button. Don't forget to comment. I know that you always comment in my LinkedIn, but we'll be really happy if you guys can comment in the YouTube channel as well. We'll be more than happy to pick up any interesting question if you have any, and we can redirect that to Christopher. We'll come once again with another show, another time, and keep watching us, keep blessing us, and don't forget to treat your kids in a way as friends. That is more important when you're treating your kid not as a kid, but as a friend. If he or she is playing a game, that means that they are trying to encourage themselves into the virtual world. It's not that they just want to do something which is not relevant to you. That's one of the core reasons they usually play it, because they can win. They want to win in real life. So if you can divert that mindset from virtual world to real world, probably both of us, me and Christopher, will be more than happy. And I wish all the luck and good willingness, good happiness. How do I define it? Like all the good things in the universe go to you, Christopher, because your startup is gonna actually help a lot many kids, lot many people in this world. Wish you luck with this note. Thank you so much for coming, and please keep blessing us once again. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for all of you watching as well. And have a good one.